Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. We have an exciting episode for you this week, and this episode features none other than Jack Klett from ETS and Jamie Gleason from DD Agency. Now, I was actually just at NAGAP, which is the Association for Graduate Enrollment Managers in Chicago, and both Jack and Jamie were there. And the two of them said, "Hey Zach, we really love your podcast. We'd love to come on and just share some musings for the event." So unfortunately, I wasn't able to join them for this conversation, but these two guys are chock full of ideas and insights and share some real good nuggets about the takeaways that they learned and others learned from this event. So you're going to love it. All right, folks, without further ado, get ready to meet Jamie and Jack and enjoy the show. Let me know what you think. You can DM me on LinkedIn or Twitter. All right, guys, take care.
So here we are, Jack. It is, we're on day 3, I suppose, of NAGAP 2022 here in beautiful Chicago, also known as, what are the nicknames of Chicago?
The Windy City.
Isn't there another one? Beantown? Is it Beantown?
I don't know.
I feel like it is Beantown. Someone Google that and hit up our website with an answer. I believe that it's Beantown.
Chi-Town? I feel like Chi-Town is
people say that.
Chicago?
Yeah. But yeah, great city. We've had lovely weather so far. I think we're in for some rain later on. But so here we are. Let's talk about goal of the episode is 3 big takeaways from NAGAP 2022. And for those of you who are listening here, let's just welcome you to the episode. My name is Jamie Gleason. I'm the Vice President of Enrollment Strategy at DD Agency. DD Agency has been a longtime partner with NAGAP, and as I've noticed here at my first in-person event, we have a lot of friends here in the GEM community that really know who we are and love what we do, which is great because I feel like I'm in good company because I also love what we do at DD Agency. Hence, why I show up to work every day.
You guys do good work, Jamie.
Thank you, Jack. But Jack and I represent 2 different ends of a spectrum here, in that Jack has been a long time, I won't say lifelong, but no one's coming out of the womb and becoming a NAGAP member. I don't think yet. Although maybe a lifetime membership could be something to consider. Something. But Jack's been here before. He has also lots of network connections. I am
a proud NAGAP member since 2005.
Man, 2005. What happened in 2005? Like, you ever look up Google, like,
what was
famous,
going on in that year?
Yeah. So you tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I'm gonna try to find out a couple of little things.
Find out some things from 2005.
I'm gonna be specific. April 22nd, 2005. I'm gonna find out what was happening.
What was happening on that day?
Yeah.
I will venture to say that Tom Brady probably won a Super Bowl in 2005.
Okay, I'm just gonna say I've been listening to another podcast called Armchair Experts with Dax Shepard, and I just listened to an old episode with Tom Brady. And as much of a cyborg as that guy kind of appears to be, because he is like an actual superhuman, he does a great podcast interview. Super friendly dude, and real down to earth.
Another special thing about Tom Brady that people don't know, and people should know that I am not a Tom Brady fan because I am an Eagles fan.
Yes, go Birds.
So I still hurt from the 2004 Super Bowl.
But
I am happy about redemption. Nick Foles, we love you.
We miss you.
We do. Dougie Doug, we love you too. Doug Peterson. Anyway, Ross Tucker is a football analyst and also knows Tom Brady well, and says that he has never seen anyone with the mad skills of beer chugging.
No kidding.
Seen with Tom Brady.
No kidding.
Tom Brady can evidently chug a beer like nobody's business.
You know what's funny though about Tom Brady? Just a couple of things. We said Jack and I said before we started recording, hey, this is going to be a short one, and already I can tell that this is not turning out to be a short one because we're a far, far, far afield with Tom Brady. But he also was not a great quarterback in college. He was picked like really far down in the draft.
6th round draft pick.
Yeah. So amazing guy. Amazing story of discipline and the pursuit of just perfection. And I think that, let's reel it back here to NAGAP, and that's what we're trying to do, right? Like, we're trying to help some GEM professionals do a little bit better at what they, bringing in the students, the class that they want to. So anyway, Jack, tell us about who you are and what you do right now.
Sure. So my name is Jack Klett, and Jamie and I, we've known each other for quite a few years now, and have always enjoyed our time together, even working together. So I'm very happy. Let me, on behalf of the GEM community, let me welcome you to your first in-person NAGAP. So I've been involved in graduate enrollment, since 2005. My higher ed journey started in 2000 when I started in undergraduate admissions, and then shifted over into graduate enrollment in 2005, and have basically never left the world of graduate enrollment and graduate studies. I was a director of graduate admissions for a long period of time, and shifted over to the academic affairs side and became an associate dean of graduate studies for a good period of time. And now I am part of the academic partnerships team at ETS.
ETS. Also, most likely a longtime affiliate of the GEM community with services like GRE and TOEFL,
English language proficiency, and now we're doing some really fun work focused on holistic admissions and assisting institutions with their ability to really take a look at an applicant individually, as opposed to a bunch of numbers in a spreadsheet that relate to GPA and GRE scores. Instead, really taking a look at what that student can offer, how that student will do in the program. How do you take a look at not only the kind of objective measures and critical thinking skills that are so important, but how do you also look at really some of those qualitative data points, those kind of non-cognitive factors that are also important. How do you get to things like persistence and grit, the ability to juggle so much as part of a graduate student experience and actually get the degree? Those are the ways that we're really trying to help institutions. And all of that is really about supporting learners through the entire learning life cycle, which really never ends, Jamie.
Yeah, right. I know that Jack and I have done podcasts in the past where we've talked about things like a 60-year curriculum, and I think that that's just a wonderful, I don't even like to think about my personal attributes as an undergraduate student and how lacking in direction I was. But I think the acknowledgement there is that through this process of life, right, like learners change, behavior change. Tom Brady is a great example of someone who in high school as a sophomore, he was a great baseball player but didn't play football. That's when he started, it's like, and it shows the progression, and the same, relative to those cognitive, non-cognitive assessments that graduate students go through. So let's segue there into, like Jack as a veteran to the conference, as a friendly face that many know. Like, what have been like 2 or 3 big things that you're hearing and that make you really excited or warm your heart, or go as emo as you want to, or be gritty and tactical if you want to do that too.
All right, I want to tell you a quick story of something that happened at my family dinner last Sunday. My dad and I were drinking a couple of IPAs on the back porch when my 17-year-old sister Abby and her friend Olivia walked outside. As they walked onto the porch, I overheard them talking about this app that allowed them to join chat rooms with other high school students who were considering the same colleges and universities. And that app was Zimi, the #1 social app for the college search. Abby and Olivia remarked how cool it was that they were forming real relationships with high schoolers from around the country, and they went on to say that they were now considering schools that they hadn't originally considered because of the friends they made on Zimi. Zimi is where Gen Z goes to meet their future college friends. It's the place where today's high school students decide if, when, and where to go to school. And it's the social network that yields the greatest insights on who your school's most qualified prospective students are and what these prospective students actually care about. Discover how your college or university can use Zimi to help engage quality prospects and nurture them to the point of enrollment by visiting colleges.zimi.com. Again, that's colleges.zimi.com. And if you talk to the team there, be sure to mention that Enrollify sent you their way.
Yeah. Well, I think a perfect segue, really, because we were talking about change. The theme for NAGAP this year is change management. And I mean, man, have we been through some crazy changes the past couple of years, and especially in terms of not only how we work together within our own institutions, but also how we connect with students and try to meet them where they are. And I think that's been quite a challenge, right, over the past couple of years. But you and I have talked about before just some of the amazing innovations that have happened out of necessity, really, over the past couple of years. So one of my takeaways, if I'm going to take a look at 3 takeaways, and this is going to be a little bit high level, it won't be very granular, but it really is the change in NAGAP itself. And I don't mean like from this year to last year, but just how NAGAP has evolved as an organization to meet the like ever-changing experience on the ground for graduate enrollment management professionals. I remember when I first got here in 2005, my first NAGAP, there was no such thing as a session on, digital marketing. We weren't talking about, website analytics and things like that. I mean, we were talking about, print and direct mail, and, it's just pretty crazy how things have changed and evolved. And, you guys at DD Agency had a great session, bring your own marketing challenge. Is that what it was?
BYOMC.
BYOMC. Yeah, that's what it was. And you know what I loved about it? What I loved about that session, which for people who are just tuning in and didn't experience it firsthand, basically you had a panel of experts, including folks who were seated at institutions, just kind of brainstorming solutions to people's like real life, tangible, on the ground challenges. And what I loved about that session was, first of all, you could have heard a pin drop in there. I mean, everyone rapt attention, right? I mean, it was awesome. But you could have gone on for another 2 hours.
Oh,
I see the stack there of people's submitted challenges.
Yeah. I have a lot of emails to write.
Yeah, and a lot of solutions to find, I'd
right.
imagine.
Yep.
And you could have gone on. And one of the things that in hearing people's challenges, the challenges were very much focused on, how do we use modern tools and technology to connect with students. And that was cool because I think that really underscored just the evolution of NAGAP as an organization. NAGAP has always really been a way for professionals in the GEM community to gain new knowledge, gain new insights. So it was really cool to see how NAGAP is helping folks with ed tech, with using new tools to engage students. But the underlying themes, though, still remain the same to what I experienced in 2005, which is, at the very core of it, how do we connect with students? How do we meet students where they are? So my first takeaway is just the evolution of NAGAP as an organization to support GEM professionals, but yet at its core still really focused on how we empower GEM professionals to connect with students. And it's one of the reasons why I just love this community.
Yeah, I think that word community is that's been a resonating theme that I've seen. And I think a lot of us go to conferences and we expect certain things, right? We expect sessions, we expect big meetings, we expect an exhibit hall. What we don't expect is to see the plethora of familiar faces, I think, all the time, and to see this tangible community that's there for each other. And the vibe that I'm really picking up here, and this is kind of my newcomer sense coming into it, my spidey sense, is there is this genuine vibe of how do we help each other? Like, obviously there's a ton of similarities and challenge that many face. And there's also, as people who believe in our programs, we want to, put our best foot forward. But there's also this like collective brainstorming process that's happening in, kind of in real time. There's reunion combined with just that recognition of like verbal processing and working through it and hearing. I totally agree with what you're saying about like, I've been to so many sessions over the last 36 hours that have been about, what are we doing to make our digital space better, to relieve friction, to meet needs, to provide content, to get, our unique value propositions to the surface, whether that's in SEO or whether that's content on the website or making a personal connection with a representative that can articulate those differences. And I feel like that's just being in this environment, with 600 other professionals who are doing this and caring about it. And I think that word care is like significant, especially in light of, the context of where we're coming in of, there's a lot of rusty gears when it comes to being at a conference. I know you and I, this is like, we have not been on airplanes much to travel to conferences prior to this. And we're here and it's something very exciting about it. Yet at the same time, there's also this very real, palpable challenge that is in front of the GEM community, as we think about leadership and, a lot of, so absolutely would agree with that. So,
yeah. I think that, look, I've been part of a number of professional associations and have been to any number of conferences and summits and annual meetings and, whatever they're called. Basically, they're all kind of a similar format. Sure. But NAGAP has always, it just is a really welcoming group of people. The stories of how people got into graduate admissions work and graduate enrollment work, they're just so varied. But they're definitely, to your point, you could have two institutions who are direct competitors, but in this environment, they're not competing. They're assisting one another, and it's just it's always been that way. Like it's always been just a really welcoming group, and I think part of that stems from the kind of stepchild feeling that a lot of graduate enrollment professionals feel, because there's so much attention at institutions on undergrad, right? And they have larger those admissions operations have larger budget, they have larger staffs. So to be able to come to a community where everyone feels equally neglected is
it's half conference, half support group. But I think those needs, I mean, that pulls out the community, right? That helps people stand shoulder to shoulder saying, hey, we might be competitors, but we can dialogue about how we've succeeded in this area and how this has helped us, and hopefully you can learn from that. And it's the what's that slogan? A rising tide
lifts all boats.
There we go. And I think that's a reigning mentality here. Yeah. All right, that's number one.
Wow,
that's kind of like number one for me too. Like we're already at 17 minutes. So we'll do two. We'll do two.
Speed this up.
What's the second big, second big thing that's kind of, and let's be honest. Okay, number one was really like 5 things, like all wrapped into it. But like, what's the other thing? Like the thing, as you think about, boarding a plane tomorrow and going back to New Jersey, and then, resuming your ETS, work, what's something that you're going to take away from this experience that's going to like reinvigorate you, or maybe has kind of helped your mindset?
I don't know if it's connected to what we've all been through with the pandemic or not, but my big takeaway is personal connection. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I mean, yes, it's been great to be personally connected, right, in person. That's part of like the takeaway number one. But in so many NAGAPs past, there have been a lot of sessions on, how do you convey your value proposition? How do you, you have all these different programs. Like, how do you talk about, what's meaningful and what the student will get out of that experience? And there's all kinds of cool work that's been done on, trying to convey those value propositions and market those programs. But there's been a lot of conversation at the sessions, at least that I've attended, and really just milling around the room and talking with colleagues and friends about how do we personally connect with the student, with the prospective student, in a way. It's more than just personally connecting. How do we learn about the prospective student, understand what is personally driving them to want this graduate experience, and then how do we communicate to them through that lens? We've talked before in other venues about the personal drivers, those things that are unique to graduate students, that is making them want to get this degree, right? Like, the undergrad experience, the first-time undergraduate experience is almost like a rite of passage, right? Like, you're graduating high school. Of course, you're looking at college, or you're thinking about the military, or you're thinking about a trade or something like that. But the idea that you're leaving high school and the next phase of your life is going to involve something, right? It's basically a rite of passage. The graduate experience is not like that, right? There's something personally that's driving you to want to get that degree, to have that experience, to gain new skills. Is it career advancement? Is it to make more money? Is it just complete and total passion for a specific subject? I have my graduate degree in political science. I do nothing involving political science.
Yes, but you love political science.
I love
you
political
love politics.
Science. I do. But it was the passion, right? It was the passion for that subject. And I said, well, I love it so much, I might as well just get a degree out of it, right? So what is that what is motivating that person? And then with that, what are the concerns that person has about the potential obstacles to fulfilling that goal of getting that degree and having that graduate experience? And the reason why I say I don't know if it's connected to the pandemic is because everybody's journey the past couple years has been so personal, right? And I feel like my feelings when the pandemic first happened versus my feelings in like 2021, and then my feelings like now are just all over the place. Like at any given point, I was kind of wrestling with so many things. And of course you're worried about family and friends and what they're going through. But it's this idea that everybody's on a personal journey. And I just have loved the focus of the sessions about understanding that personal journey and connecting in a way that was meaningful and communicating through that lens. So that would be my second big ticket.
Hey, all, Zach here from Enrollify. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, admissions, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks that are all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Mickey Baines, Jeremy Tiers, Jamie Hunt, Corinne Myers, Jamie Gleason, and many, many more. You can learn more about the Enrollify Podcast Network at podcasts.enrollify.org. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea. Find yours at podcasts.enrollify.org.
Yeah, I think that's like I have a slight adaptation to that, because I feel like there is there's such recognition of the obstacles and the access obstacles that certain demographics have, and I'm just in many ways I'm just really excited about how higher ed is like looking at that, acknowledging like the elephant in the room, like, hey, this has to be addressed. We have to change process. We have to make sure that in the pursuit of sharing this like wealth of greatness that higher ed is, that we're not overlooking, that we're not like minimizing the challenges that it represents for, whether it's certain geographies that don't have, high-speed internet, or certain, just all sorts of, issues of access. And I love that we're considering that, and that it's becoming more and more. Don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of equity to be reconciled and rectified. But it's like the old proverb that is about, the Japanese proverb of when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. And when's the second best time? Today. Yeah. So like, I'm just happy that like the today is happening, and that we're, as a community of higher ed professionals and even higher ed vendors, that we're, making sure that this is at the foreground of the work that we're doing, so that, we don't look back 20 years from now and say, hey, we missed an opportunity that was there to make a difference for another next generation of citizens and students and families and whatever, in order to, move forward that like personal, whether it's personal enrichment, whatever the motivator is for a graduate degree pursuit, like that we're moving that forward, that we're helping that generation, the next generation, get it better.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on so many things that could turn this episode into a 3-hour episode. but if I could comment on some things you said about access and equity, and so people ask me sometimes, Jack, why do you work for? How come you no longer work for an institution? How come you work for ETS? I just am completely on board with ETS's mission. It's ETS is turning 75 this year, which is
congratulations.
Awesome.
The cake is in the other room.
Thank you. And from its inception, its mission as a nonprofit has been to advance quality and equity in education. Yeah. And for so long, assessments were a vehicle to do that. It didn't matter if you performed well on an assessment. It didn't matter what your last name was. It didn't matter, how much money you had in your bank account. Yep. You were able to objectively prove that you deserved a seat at the table, that you were prepared for graduate school, sure. And you were ready. And now, as things shift and evolve over time, because nothing is ever static, right? We live in, especially, I feel like these days, just what a dynamic time we live in. ETS has itself evolved to meet the challenges of our time, as it relates to quality and equity in education. Again, focused on that mission. And Suzanne Ortega, who's president of CGS, the Council of Graduate Schools, she says of late that the paths to and through graduate school are no longer linear, right? The idea that you go to high school, undergrad, yep. grad, the academy, like sure. It's just not the way it works. Right. People have lives, and with the way our world is, you need to upskill and reskill, sure. and potentially do something very different than what you were intending to do with your career. Yeah. And graduate school can be a great vehicle for that. Yep. But inherent in her comment about not being linear, the idea is that every single individual student is on their own unique learning journey. Yeah. So how do we support each individual student? How do we recognize and diagnose the disadvantages that each individual student, sometimes unique disadvantages that each individual student has and is facing, and how do we provide supports that allow that student to kind of get back on their journey and to continue to learn and grow. Wow, we're getting very philosophical here, Jamie.
Yeah.
But
it just happens.
But yeah, I mean, it really. I think that's in large part what everybody is doing here, is trying to figure out, how do we provide that access? How do we support those students? And how do we open the doorway, if you will, to a graduate experience?
Yeah, and I think you bring it all together in the fact that, like, obviously within context, the context of where we've come from over the last few years, the raised awareness with needs and almost a better way to address access. But combined with that, like, just the technological advances that you started out remarking about, like the NAGAP of years ago was about print and all these older modalities, but now these technological tools, like, they empower this process so much more, and they enable us to think through, like, hey, how can we meet the needs? How can we meet the needs of that non-linear journey in such a way that has less friction, that helps people find, as they're at the Google search bar, it, like, helps them find the right institution from that point forward, right? Without having any understanding that graduate school could be a part of the solution, that they're sitting down and typing in, how can I be a better nurse? Or, whatever like that, whatever that is. But that then leads to this pathway of a personal interaction with an institution, a non-cognitive assessment that shows their persistence capability and moves them in the direction of picking those, 2 or 3 institutions that they actually want to consider and then go forward. So I think that, it's as much as of a scary time it is for higher education, given the obstacles and the challenges that are there, it's an equally exciting time, given that we have a lot of challenges, and I think challenges produce, again, another colloquialism is that, like, oh crap, I'm gonna forget it. I'm so bad at colloquialisms. Essentially, what I'm trying to communicate is that, it's the concept of the diamond comes out of the pressure, right? Like, this idea of, like, putting immense pressure and struggle and pain into a process, like, that challenge is what produces the stuff that's so welcome. And I think that's the exciting part. So we are at 30 minutes, wow. Twice what we expected to be. Jack Klett, thanks. I really appreciate it. This has been a great way to kind of digest my first in-person NAGAP conference. But at the same time, I think that you're absolutely right, and that we could certainly talk for 3 hours about things like this. So excited to be a part of this, and excited to have some time to sit down with you and hear your take as a veteran.
It is always a pleasure to join you, Jamie. And hey, I'll see you at your next NAGAP.
You know what? I have to close the loop. I said that I was going to look up some statistics about April 2025 during your...
Don't leave people hanging.
2005. Your first... So April 22nd seems to be a particularly kind of boring day in history. However, I'm just going to go with April 2005, generally speaking. So a couple of things that really stood out to me. Bulgaria and Romania sign an accession treaty in order to join the European Union, which was big after that, long bout of just lots of disruption in that part of Eastern Europe. Another great one is that the super jumbo jet aircraft, the A380, makes its first flight from France, an Airbus, so obviously from France. And Syria completes a withdrawal from Lebanon, ending a 29-year occupation in April 2005. So nothing about Tom Brady. Sorry, Tom. Maybe you were chugging beer at that point, but I doubt it. You were probably too young because we're older and you're younger. But anyway, great to talk to you, Jack. Congratulations on being a faithful NAGAP member, and excited about years to come.
Hey y'all, Zach here from Enrollify. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Enrollify podcast. If you liked this episode, do us a huge favor and hit that follow and subscribe button below. Furthermore, if you've got just 2 minutes to spare, we would greatly appreciate you leaving a rating and a review of this show on Apple Podcasts. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, admissions, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks that are all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. But Enrollify is far more than just a podcast network. Enrollify is where higher ed comes to learn new marketing skills, discover new products and services, and find their next job. We're a growing learning community of 4,000 members, and we'd love to welcome you into the fold. You can access our free blog articles, newsletters, e-courses, and more, or purchase our master course on how to market a university with Terry Flannery at enrollify.org. We look forward to meeting you soon and welcoming you into the community. Again, you can subscribe for free at enrollify.org.